Good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of Level Up Cyber. My name is Tony Bryan, your host and also the Executive Director of CyberUp. Looking forward to today's discussion. New topic. We've not had it in all the episodes we've done, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, but multi-factor authentication is something that has played a big part in almost everybody's lives in 2025, 2024 and back, and is I would say is probably a fundamental building block of all the things we do in a security world. So excited to dive in that today with our guest, Sairam Durgaraju. He's currently a senior architect advisor at Evernorth out of Philadelphia. So welcome to the show, Sairam.
Hey, thank you so much, Tony. Thanks for having me on this show.
Yeah. Well, so I've had the pleasure to get to know you just a little bit more. I'd love for you to just give our audience an introduction to yourself, who you are, and how you've gotten to where you're at.
Yep, absolutely. Right. So I have close to around 18 years of experience in security domain, especially in cybersecurity, and expertise in identity and access management solutions. So I have started my career 18 years ago. When I'm fresh out of college, I was trying to look what to do with my career. Then I luckily got an opportunity with one of the leading media company where I joined as a security analyst and started understanding the security concepts and helping with all the daily routine stuff. And then that slowly built up the interest for me in the security space. Then I slowly started moving into integrating the applications using IAM platforms and implementing all the advanced authentication protocols and the techniques. So overall, I end up with multiple companies. Right now, I'm working for a leading healthcare insurance company, and I'm working as a senior security architect there. And my roles include designing and implementing the secure solutions for protecting the web applications, mobile devices, mobile applications. And also, I also have a ton of experience with DevOps, cloud security, and implementing multi-factor authentication solutions. And also, I have passion with certificates. I've done multiple certificates. I'm a certified ethical hacker. I'm a certified ethical forensic investigation certificate. And then I'm certified with ISC squared cybersecurity, and I have a ton of other certifications in the IAM platforms, including Okta, IBM ISAM, Auth0, multiple other cloud providers. So overall, I have a good level of deep understanding in the security strategies and cloud infrastructure with a particular focus on cloud security. So that's pretty much about me.
We've covered, that's a lot of ground. You've been a busy guy for 14, 15 years, which is exciting. So a big part of that really, I think within the security space, it's probably in every aspect of your career, is that buy-in, and how do you help people understand a culture of security and really build that out. And the first line of defense oftentimes for a small to large business really is identity access management, right? So today we're going to dive into the world of multi-factor authentication. So just to, because we always try to do in the show, to level set expectations. So in your definition, what is multi-factor authentication?
So before I explain what is multi-factor authentication, I'm going to take users one step back and try to level set what they do currently, right? In the current world, whenever you, me, or any other guy out there who tries to access any of the portals, right? So the first gateway is to enter a name and password, right? So once they do that, they get access to their banking information or their healthcare information or any other portal, right? So the only thing sitting between you and your personal information is just that password. So with all the advanced techniques out there, it's going to take anywhere between seconds to minutes to hack those passwords, right? And with all the data breaches happening all around the world, I'm sure 90% of the users' data is already breached. The passwords are already out there. So once the bad actor has the passwords, they can do pretty much anything what they want. So in order to stop that, there is something called multi-factor authentication, which dramatically reduces the risk of account compromises. So no matter what, how much complex password a user have, it can be stolen through multiple techniques like phishing attacks or brute force, or even by malware, right? So MFA, multi-factor authentication, ensures if a password is stolen or the access, the access is blocked without additional verification. So user has to go through multiple steps of verifications before they get access to the account. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper and try to explain what factors, right? So the most common factors in MFA includes are something which are like three factors, right? So one is the knowledge based, second one is the possession based, third one is the inherence based. Which I meant by is the knowledge based is something you know. Something you know could be like the password or a pin or a security question or a passphrase or a gesture, which you only know, right? So that can be easily hacked or it can be stolen. Then the second step of verification would be the possession, right? So something you have. Something you have could be the most common example is email, right? So email access, so that you will get a OTP code through the email, or your mobile device, a smartphone, right? So where you can get a SMS OTP, or even you can go through the Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator, or even a soft token or a hard token, right? So that's the second level of verification. And then there is a third additional level of verification which cannot be stolen, right? Which is part of you. For example, your fingerprints, right? Which is unique to you. No one can steal it unless you give it away, right? Or a retina scan or so overall, there are additional steps, so that MFA adds the additional layer of security, making it very significantly harder for attackers to gain unauthorized access to your accounts.
So a great explanation. And I know a lot of times, and especially in the business world, there's always concerns, right? That, oh my gosh, I'm going to have 17 steps. I just want to log in and get my stuff done, and I want to work. So, how can organizations ensure that multi-factor authentication doesn't become a barrier to people's productivity?
Exactly. That's a very good question, right? So being a technology specialist, we tend to design our applications, in a more robust way, more secure way, but we sometimes keep the user's thought process or user's experience in the backseat, right? So that is the biggest, biggest challenge or criticism for, whenever we implement a MFA, it can frustrate the users because users has to log in, log in every time, and they need to verify themselves every single login. And then users may not be as techie savvy as you and me, right? So they are normal guys, they want to just get access to their accounts and get over with it. And all these barriers, right? So users will be like kind of frustrated if we add too many layers of security, and if we push the user to go through the multiple challenges, then user might be frustrated. And the whole purpose of your business, right? So your business at the end of the day is to, it might be anything. Like you just need to allow your users seamlessly access their accounts so that they can do whatever they want to do in their account. So it's very, very important to keep such barriers in the mind. And whenever you design a solution, that's what I do, right? So whenever I design a solution, I always think about the user's perspective and see, like, do I like the solution? If I am the user, am I going to be happy with what I am doing? When I do this multiple barriers, put these multiple barriers, am I going to be happy with that? So we have to be very careful in balancing. It's a double-edged sword, right? We have to be very careful in balancing the security versus the user experience.
So it's a great transition into the next question is, so we've implemented, now we got to roll it out, right? We got to make sure that there's an adoption here and that everybody and the follow-up behind this. So how do you ensure a smooth user experience for that adoption without compromising the overall security for the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. So whenever I'm going to talk about my thought process, right? So whenever I design a solution, what I would do is I would look more deep into the solution, what I'm going to implement, and see, how can I balance the security and the user experience. So users, so there are multiple techniques and ways are there, like for example adaptive authentication, where if the user is getting to trying to access the account every single time using the same device, right? So and we trust that device, or if every time he's using the same IP address, maybe we can bypass the MFA. Every time maybe he's using the same location, same geographical location, we can bypass the MFA, right? And then also we need to think about the enrollment process of the factors, right? So what happens if the user lost access to his mobile device, where he's tend to get a SMS OTP, or what if he get lost access to his email, or even what if he loses his smartphone, or the physical key, the UB key, or a secure soft token. So there are multiple things you need to keep in mind when designing a solution. And make sure that the MFA solution, whatever we are designing, won't be a barrier to the productivity of the user, right? And we need to also understand why would users resist the MFA, right? So change is difficult. It's tough to accept. Everyone, right? So even for me, change is tough, but you need to look beyond the change. What's the benefit users are getting out of that, right? Users may not understand the benefit. Users may not be tech savvy, but they can understand the benefit, right? Say the only thing sitting between you and your bank account, or your dollars which are sitting in the bank account, is just the password. So we need to explain users like, hey, you need to secure that, and then they will also adapt to the new securities strategies happening around the world, and try to adjust with the changes. And we need to lack of awareness of the rising risks of cybersecurity. We just need to educate the users, and I think that would also balance the act.
Great segue for this next question. Are there tools or frameworks that if I'm looking to incorporate multi-factor authentication in my organization, I can lean into or turn to for reference points and answers?
Yeah, of course. There are a ton of tools. It depends on your business. If it's a high-tech company where they can spend millions of dollars, there are extraordinary tools out there. And if it is a medium size or a small scale companies, there are limited options, but there are still out there where ways you can implement some of the best securities. The most popular platforms to implement MFAs as of today are the cloud solutions like Okta, Auth0, or Microsoft Entra, or Google Suite, or Ping Identity, or even if you are a small scale or mid scale, I would say like Google or Microsoft is the best option. They are cheap and economical. And again, how many factors, right? It all depends on how much you want to do. If you want to do implement advanced technologies like WebAuthn or FIDO standards, it's going to cost more. It's not cheap, right? So designing the solution and implementing the solution, it's not cheap. It all depends on how much budget your organization can allow for implementing this, and how much your organization can tolerate the risk, right? So the risk appetite is very important. If your organization is a bank, I am going to spend substantial amount to protect my bank, right? If your organization is just a simple newspaper, or a something, a blog, or a social, which is like a pretty public content, right? So then probably you can afford to spend less and design some low level MFA solutions. But it's at the end of the day, it all depends on how much your organization can afford.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Another good segue. We're teeing each question up right after the other, so it's coming along great. What are some of the latest trends in technology? Right, and there's a lot of new tools and resources. We go back. I always think of the little card that's changing the little chip that's changing the number all the time, and you've got apps now, Google authenticators and stuff. But what are some of the latest trends in technology that's out there in multi-factor authentication?
So I see the trend in the cybersecurity or across the industry is slowly transitioning and moving away, even from MFA, because the hackers has advanced their techniques too, right? So they are now trying to crack MFA as well. They are doing social engineering. They're trying to do get access to your cell phone SIM cards, right? So they can get a SIM card access, and they can do a SIM swap, and boom, they have access to all your OTPs, or they can hack into your email, right? So hackers are getting smart as well. So I see the trend is slowly moving away from MFAs and slowly starting leaning towards the passwordless authentication, or the AI-powered fraud detection using the MFA processes, or the biometrics evolving for seamless integration into devices. So I would say the best way is to again look at your organization structure, but all these advanced technologies, what I spoke about, are still in I would say like baby phase. And more tech savvy solutions, the end user needs to be very smart in order to understand these solutions. It's not just like you can implement it and users will adapt to it. For example, if the passwordless authentication, right? The example could be like the Face ID, fingerprints, right? So or the magic links sent via email. So what happens is if user tries to log in, at the time of authentication, you'll just take the username and he clicks login. The user will get an email directly to his inbox. He clicks on that link, he get access to the dashboard or his portal, or something like, or maybe you can look at the single sign-on solutions, right? So all these latest trends are phishing resistance, and they have slowly the industry is also started supporting it. Like for example, the WebAuthn is supported by all the major browsers today, as of today, like Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, and all the platforms. And the passwordless capabilities are also supported by most of the smartphones, so like Apple, Android, iOS and Android, without needing the passwords. So it's all based on the I would say the all these devices are registered and the key pair is generated, and the private key always stays with the user's device. So as long as user has that device, there's no way he's getting hacked into his personal information. And the public key is shared with the servers, and then the public key is stored, and the authentication process involves in proving the possession of private key and verified using the public key. So overall, I would say the industry is slowly leaning towards this, just because these are more stronger trends.
So we talked a little bit about what are some trends. So what are some common mistakes that companies would, as they're trying to do a rollout or implement these things, what are some mistakes that they would make, and how can they avoid them?
As I said, right? So over engineering. So whenever you design a solution, I see a lot of, like, personally, I use a lot of applications, right? Some of the applications I see like they are doing over engineering. For example, failing to provide a fallback option. So like, for example, if I don't have access to my mobile phone, I need to call the company. I called one of the bank, right? So I said like, hey, I lost access to my SIM card. because of various reasons. And then I switched the provider. I got a new number, but I cannot log into my portal. I called the bank, and the bank said like, hey, unfortunately, I cannot verify you. You need to do a submission when you go through this process and submit it, and that would take like 2 or 3 days to process. So I'm losing access to my bank account just because of, there's no fallback option, right? So that's very frustrating for users. And also, as I said, overly relying on, I see a lot of companies are overly relying on the SMS OTP based. It's very vulnerable for SIM swapping, or also implementing the MFA universally without considering the risk of specific actions. So I would say like companies has to look at holistically and take the user's experience into the consideration and be in the user's shoes, right? So if you are implementing the solution, you need to like it, you need to adapt it, you need to look at the loopholes and make sure the transition is very seamless for the end users.
Do you ever see a world where we're passwordless? I mean, it seems like there's some trends here, right? Where there's options where we have different ways to credential and log into stuff, or maybe multi-factor authentication. It's just different, right? Because I know, there's a much higher dependency on Google or password man, maybe not like password managers as a whole, because the parameters get harder, the requirements get different. We don't want to use the same password all the time. So like we're creating this huge, especially for some companies, you might have, 30 passwords you have to manage. So, do we get to a point where, there's just a more streamlined way for some of this stuff? And, what do you think that would be?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So the trend is, I would say, I can speak personally about myself, right? So I have like hundreds of usernames and passwords distributed everywhere, right? Like as of today, the technology is entirely digital. I interact with everyone using digital, right? We both are talking digital, right? So the human interaction has reduced. So remembering all these usernames and passwords are cumbersome, hard to remember, or frequently most of the users will reuse, right? So as a security specialist, I know the importance of not reusing the same password every single time. But a layman, he may not know that, right? So he can just reuse the same password. So let's say if I get access to username and password once, I got access to your kingdom, right? So I'm definitely seeing the trend. The industry trend is moving towards passwordless. But the only challenge with the passwordless solutions are it's very, very tech savvy, right? So users has to register their keys using the device, using their devices, and users may not understand, hey, why is it asking to register something, right? So user may not aware of that. So user needs to be educated. But the adoption of passwordless is happening very rapidly. All the tech giants like Microsoft, Apple, Google are promoting passwordless login options. And then, they are also educating the user saying like, hey, it's an enhanced security. It removes the risk of password related attacks like phishing, credential stuffing, or brute force. So I definitely see the trend is happening. Maybe like down the line, maybe like another half a decade, like 4 to 5 years. I would say like, I won't be surprised if the passwords are gone. So it would be all passwordless. I wish that day comes soon.
So with that in mind, where can I go? Right. I'm trying to figure out, I've listened today. I'm motivated, inspired. Man, I want to go add some some intentional multi-factor authentication, right? Beyond just what my products are offering. Where can I go to learn? Where can I turn to find resources? Where's a good place to go understand these kind of things and get a little bit better sense of where I should be headed?
That's a great question, right? So gone are the days where if you have to learn something, there is very limited information out there. But these days, the information is out there, publicly available for pretty much anyone, right? So I'm not just talking about the common information. So if you want to implement the multi-factor authentication solutions or passwordless solutions. The companies which are offering this, which I spoke about earlier, right, like Microsoft Azure Entra ID or Google Suite or Okta or any of these major cloud providers, they are giving you guys a free demo account. You can just go in, sign up, get access to that free demo account where they will give you some limited trial period for like 30 free days or something, where you can start playing with that and implement the solutions to the POCs. You can use look at all the features available out there in the cloud security tenants. You can create your own tenant, and you can do the POCs. There is no stopping there, right? So as I said, the information is out there. We just need to look at the right places to get the information. And honestly, that's what I've been doing, right? So to learn the new trends in the cybersecurity, the world is moving towards zero trust security models. So I tend to go look at all these big giants, create the accounts in their tenants, get the POC tenant or get the demo tenant access, look at their features, do some few POCs, right, and then try to figure out if that solution works for your organization, or even that solution would work for you or not personally.
Great answer. One last question before we get to the last one. What advice would you give to somebody, or one piece of advice that's looking, they're motivated, they've gone and researched? What's the piece of advice that you'd give them as they try to roll out multi-factor authentication to their organizations?
For an organization, I would say it all depends on how big is your organization or how small it is. But no matter what the size of your organization, you need to have some level of protection, especially with this world out there. Everyone are trying to get access. All the bad actors are trying to get access to some information they're trying to steal, right? So classic examples, Twitter got hacked. If you remember it or not, back in 2020, all the celebrity accounts in Twitter got hacked, which includes Elon Musk's account is there, and then Barack Obama's account was there. Hackers got access to all the celebrity accounts. You know how? Because the guy who runs the Twitter, the administrator, he doesn't have the MFA set up. So it's a very, very bad world out there. But what I'm saying is the company has to look at their business and see how much risk appetite they can take, how much risk tolerance they can take, and then whatever it is, I would say no information needs to be going unprotected out there. So how much ever you want to protect it. If you are a bank, keep it locked. All the transactions, verify them once, twice, right? All the key areas. If you are giving access to the personal health information, lock it down. Verify the user once, twice, and make sure the user is the authentic user who's getting access to that information. And then anything with respect to the cloud, right? So lock it down. Follow the least privilege principles, and just allow the access to the user, whatever is needed. Just close all the loopholes, and I think the organizations would do good.
It's a great answer. So we've come to the tail end of our show, so everybody gets the last same question, and it's always a fan favorite. So, what advice would you give to our listeners who are looking to level up their cybersecurity careers?
So that's a good question. One way to learn is always, hands-on. Set up your own cyber labs at house. All you need is just a Mac or your personal PC. Make sure you don't do anything bad, but set up the lab and set up the virtual machine, set up the labs. And there are ISC Square is out there. They are offering ton of free certifications. And then we have EC Council is there. And then there are a lot of other resources out there. participate in the forums, cybersecurity forums, observe the latest trends, do the hands-on, guys. Hands-on is the only thing, that's the only best way to learn. And cybersecurity is still a niche space. There are a ton of opportunities out there. The world needs more cybersecurity warriors. So if you guys need any assistance or questions, you have Tony, right? So Tony is a great guy. So he's running the cyber LevelUp for years now. So there are great guys like Tony out there. So you can reach out to all these people for assistance.
There's a lot of resources, and it's almost, I think it's overwhelming sometimes the amount of information that you can get to. So advice that you give for things like multi-factor authentication or even careers is always helpful to give somebody a direction. So Sairam, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed the discussion. I learned a lot today around multi-factor authentication, and I think it's one of those things that over the last 10 to 15 years has just become such an integral part of what we do every single day. It's easy to forget the important role it plays. It really is the foundational building block that, to your point earlier, protects everything from everybody, because and I like the way you articulately said it around, like, the only thing holding you, a bad person, away from your information is a password. And exactly. If you can't take the 3 minutes to make a good password or store it in the right way, you probably have bigger problems. So, definitely an important aspect. So thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Thank you to all of our listeners. As always, appreciate the time you spend to learn and grow with us at CyberUp. So thank you so much. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Thank you guys.
Thank you. See you then.